This is Jana, and I'm here with my co-host and good friend Jill from Illinois. So this is the January edition of the PurlCast, and it's our first one of the new year, 2020. Can you believe it's like a new decade? I mean, I know everyone's been talking about that, but it feels weird, kind of. I mean, remember when it became the 2000s and we all thought Y2K was going to be such a big deal and it wasn't?
Do you remember? I remember sitting in grade school thinking about 2020 and, oh my gosh, it was so futuristic, and will we even still be alive?
Right? And we're like, oh, we'll be 50 then.
Yes.
And like totally freaking out about, I mean, you couldn't even comprehend that age or year.
No, because I thought it really was going to be like the Jetsons, like that we would be scooting around, the housekeeper around your own house.
Yeah, but kind of we are though. I mean, look at us. You're in Illinois. You're a 2 days drive. What are you, like 800 miles from me or something? And I'm here and we're talking to each other like we're in the same room. I mean, so kind of it is Jetson-ish, right?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, the internet.
And it's funny then because I have a younger daughter, and she was talking about Harry Potter today and about flu powder. Mom, wouldn't it be cool if we had the flu powder and we could just transport there? Or, the hologram type stuff. So I wonder what they think their future is going to be like.
Well, what will it be like, 30 years from now, 40 years from now? Crazy. Anyway, yeah.
But they'll still need knitting.
I know. So, how people have like their theme word, like all the people that do the planners and the journals, like you have a word, right?
So I have a word. I had word envy the last 2 years. It was cool to have a word, and I really wanted to have a word. Should it be hope or should it be whatever? And I tried to force it and then just gave it up.
Okay, wait. That is a good lesson. It doesn't work when you push it. It just doesn't work, right? So you did well. There's a lesson right there.
Yeah, well, it was going to be so cool. What's your word? Going on Etsy and getting it like inscribed out of wood, and then it's everywhere. And I tried really hard, and I mean, I could think of lots of words. But
so can I. Some of them not very appropriate.
No, and it didn't work. And we were chatting on perhaps the patron thread.
Yeah, we were in the patron group. I have a Facebook group only for patrons, so if you want to get on that, you got to go be a patron. But it's a smaller group, and we talk about lots of things. So yeah, we had talked about kind of what are your intentions for the new year, knitting and not knitting, right?
So we were talking about goals, and I actually have a word this year. When I started thinking about things I wanted to do, honest to goodness, it sounds terrible. Choose. Yeah, and it's the word I chose is not flowery. It's not hope or joy or love or any of that. It's choose.
But it's so practical, and that's how come I love it. And also I love it because it resonates with me because I have some of those same challenges in my life. So go ahead and tell us about it.
Good. Paralysis by analysis. Like, I am so afraid of making a wrong decision that I don't make a decision, or I think and I rethink and I rethink. And
I overthink. That's me.
Life is too short for that. Yeah. You know what? I don't need to be sad that I screwed up on my knitting, because negative progress is progress. And it's okay to go backwards in order to go forwards, because sometimes you have to do that. And so just choose, because I can deal with whatever happens. Just let it happen, sister.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. I went to the post office to take something the other day, and they, how they have the little stamps all the way up, and I saw a Cookie Monster. I got Sesame Street stamps. They're awesome.
I have them. I know.
I use them on all my bills, because I'm thinking, if you are somewhere in an office and it is your job to open the mail or sort the mail all of the time, wouldn't you like Elmo just looking at you?
Snuffleupagus, right?
Yes.
I know. I sent my sister a birthday card and I gave her, what's her name? The one that's kind of, I used it.
I thought you meant your sister.
No, what's her name? The Muppet that is like turquoise or teal colored. Her name is Rosita. I think her name is Rosita. Well, the color of the Muppet matched perfectly the color of the envelope with the card. So I was all proud of myself over that. Isn't that the dumbest thing though? Right.
Well, no, because then I haven't used Cookie Monster yet because I'm deciding who's Cookie Monster worthy because it is the best stamp of the whole thing.
You're going to have to just choose. Just pick.
I know.
Right. So this is super hokey, my theme for the year. I mean, it's cheesy. I recognize that it's cheesy, but it's okay because it works for me. And sometimes I have to embrace the cheesiness. And that 2020 for me is the year of focus.
That's not cheesy.
Well, yeah, it is. 2020 vision, focus. Yeah, it's cheesy. I know that. But it works for me. Sometimes cheese works for me.
I like cheese.
I love it. It's one of my favorite things ever. Right. So when we were talking about all this, it got us thinking, though, that we're going to do like a year in review. And I know that there's been some things that I've leveled up on, and I know that you certainly have. And so this episode, this PurlCast is kind of a review of all the cool things that we've learned. And it's kind of just reflecting and looking back and thinking about, hey, we've done a good job in our knitting world, and we've learned a lot. We both have. Right. You've learned a lot. And I think that you particularly, and there's several, and when I say you, I mean you, Jill, but I also mean several people that I think of in your kind of intermediate-ish knitting world. In our
friends out there.
All of our Purl Together friends in our Facebook group and our viewers but I think about our Facebook group because that's where we talk about it and that's where people say, oh, I'm not sure if I can do this pattern or I'm not sure if I can do this technique. And of course we're like, yes, of course you can. Of course you can. And so we try to create that encouraging and supportive environment where people need to realize it's really just one stitch at a time, right? Whether you're doing a cable or fair isle or lace or anything, it's just one foot in front of the other, just like with anything else. How do you eat an elephant, right? Same.
One bite at a time.
Sure. It's the same thing. And so you just have to look at it, one little tiny piece at a time. And a lot of you in the group have really leveled up, and that's fantastic.
I should have brought visual aids about all of the things that I've done because we talked about, you had said, oh, you've learned so much this year. And I was thinking, man, no, I haven't done this. I haven't done this. And I went back on Ravelry and I did not realize literally every single project that I have on Ravelry is from 2019.
Right.
And
yeah.
And there's 30 of them.
I know. Now I know that you're in a hat phase for a long time. And so a lot of them are hats, and that's totally okay because you learned a lot while you were making those hats.
I did. And I moved from washcloths to hats.
Yeah. And then socks.
And then socks and fingerless mitts. And I did cables. And we talk a lot about community. I would not have ever tried cables. I would look at something like that and thought, oh, that's too hard. Even before the rational thoughts got to my brain, oh my goodness, that's just too much. And it's the encouragement, I think, of everybody in the group and then the step-by-step videos that just really, really help.
So for viewers, we're talking specifically about the Cozy Winter Shawl, and we did a knit along, I think in May-ish, I don't know, something like that. It was like May, June, I don't know. The Cozy Winter Shawl is a playlist. You can look back, links down below. And it involved, it's a triangular shawl, and I don't even have mine here. That was poor planning on my part. Pattern is a paid-for pattern by Melanie Meilinger, and it involves cables and a lace pattern, as well as we added an Icord edging. It comes with an Icord cast on and cast off, but we decided to add an Icord edging as well. So I'll put a picture in here But it involved a lot of techniques that people were nervous about, like the Icord edging. People hadn't done that before.
Hardest part about it was the first like 7 stitches was that garter tab. And then once you had the garter tab going, it was a piece of cake. So much of knitting is like that. I think it's the fear of what it's going to be like, you know?
And it's always, you're always your own worst enemy as far as mentally. You're always thinking, oh, this is so hard because it looks more complicated than it really is. But when you break it down in pieces, a cable is simply slip these stitches, hold it one way or the other, knit that, done. I mean, so I know that sometimes it's more complicated than that, but it doesn't have, I mean, really, it's just piece by piece. So you learned a lot with that. You'd never done cables, you'd never done lace, you'd never done an I-cord.
I learned, gosh, what else did I learn? Like I learned twisted rib. I learned
socks. You learned socks. You knitted socks.
I knitted socks. The heel flap and gusset. No. The part on the mitten that has a thumb.
Yes.
Lots.
That's amazing. And I've learned a lot too, because I've learned a lot about the community, about becoming a better mentor and teacher for everybody. I've learned a lot about the tech part of videoing. Like if I look back at my videos from say 1.5 years ago, they're crap. I mean, like some of them are like the lighting's bad, things are not in focus. It's kind of horrid, really.
Well, I kind of like them. I still, and it's been a while since I've made felted clogs. There's 3 pair on the Christmas list for next year. And I know I will go back to the video where you are on your front porch and it's August because that's when we did the soles together. So
yeah. But you know, I look back and so I've learned some about that, but I've learned stuff that I would have never learned brioche had it been not for the group wanting to learn brioche. I had to learn that so I could teach you guys, and it kicked my butt. I made no bones about it. I made a lot of mistakes, and then I had to show you how to fix them because I'm like, okay, I screwed that up. I guess I'll show everyone how I'm going to deal with it.
You know how somebody develops a palate? You know how little kids eat chicken nuggets all the time, you know, and then eventually you eat nicer foods until like cheese, until you're like, oh yeah, I really like Gruyere and Gouda and goat cheese. For me, yarn has been like that this year.
Right.
Because when I first started, it was, oh, that's itchy. Well, I didn't know what type of yarn for what type of project. And yeah, now I like some nice yarn.
I don't know. I think the new year, tell me what's on your bucket list for the new year? What do you want to learn?
I'm going to do a sweater this year.
Oh, yes.
And now I just panicked because I said it out loud. And yeah, I'm doing a sweater this year.
Yay. And that means not a doll sweater. We don't mean a 12-inch American Girl sweater. We mean a sweater that fits a human.
Yes.
You're going to knit a sweater for yourself.
I'm going to knit a sweater for myself, and I will wear it to the retreat in the fall of 2020.
Okay. So we need to be thinking about, and viewers too, do we want to knit a sweater together or do you want to do your own? Because you know what? I want a cardigan. I don't have a cardigan. With the Harvest cardigan knit along that we did, I made that for my sister. I sent it to her. I made that for my sister in Utah. I don't have it. I knit it for her.
Oh my gosh.
I would love to have a cardigan for my very own.
So I think that's what I was going to start with because the video tutorial series was there. I was going to start with the Harvest cardigan. And then I have another one in mind that I would like to do. So we'll see.
Oh, tell me. Oh, the blue sand.
Well, I have yarn for the blue sand. I wasn't thinking the blue sand. I was thinking it's Humulus by Isabel Kramer.
Yes. So one of your goals then for 2020 is to make a sweater for yourself.
Yes. And the boy,
the big boy, he's a big boy.
Yes. The teenager had started talking about, well, mom's never knit me anything, which I thought, oh, okay.
You've made him a hat before.
He got it for Christmas.
No, you made him a hat when I very first met you.
And he didn't wear it. His sister commandeered it, actually.
Oh,
so then he didn't wear it that much. He thought it was kind of itchy. He wasn't really into it. And so then he picked a pattern. When he started talking about it, I had him pick a pattern. So he picked a pattern and I made it for him for Christmas. And knitting for guys is so much fun because I knit it right in front of him and he had no clue.
Now, my husband maybe would realize.
My son paid zero attention. I literally knit it right in front of him, which is the best way to knit a Christmas present because then you don't have to worry about it.
Oh.
So I guessed on his head size.
Is that it right there? Show us.
Yes. It's a little bit tiny for him. Look at that. Isn't that cute?
It's super cute. What pattern is that?
It's called the Graham. Graham.
Like graham cracker. Right.
Yep. And I tell you what, that's love. That's 3.5 inches of twisted rib here. And then and then a broken rib whole head. So that's a little bit of hat love there. It's a little bit tight. He's been wearing it all the time, but he like pulls it down, then has to pull it this way and like this tuft of curls kind of comes out here. So I think I'm going to make one in a larger size because he wears it inside the house. That's love.
The thing is, if it's 4 or 5, if it is a worsted weight, if it's 4 or 5 stitches per inch, you only need to add like 4 stitches to add an inch. And depending on the broken rib, if it's a multiple of 4, then you're good, right?
Yeah, and the other thing I might do, I was reading up on some of the patterns and some people took out some of the decreases so it was less pointy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sure. You're the boss.
Yeah. I tell you what, that's been so nice this year and freeing. I think when I was new, and when I was new, I'm still pretty new.
No, you're not a beginner anymore.
I followed everything just so and was afraid to veer off at all. And now I'm like, okay, I can make that a little slouchier. Let me do this. Let me do that.
You're realizing how you can control how things go and the shape of it. Right. Yeah. Awesome. So so the cardigan, a hat for the boy.
Oh.
What other techniques are you thinking? I mean, the sweater is a big deal. Have you done color work before?
Just one of the,
Oh, you did like a polka dot thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I've done that. I've done that type of, I think it's called Destiny or something, where it was a cream colored hat with just red all the way.
And you did the buffalo plaid thing, right?
Yes, I knit the buffalo plaid hat. I think that was called the campfire hat. I'll look at that.
Yeah, but it had some, carrying along the floats and that kind of thing. Okay.
So this really was a year of learning. Hats are a really nice way to learn new techniques.
Yeah, because they don't last for weeks and weeks. Like you can bust out a hat in a week or a few days, usually. Yeah, and so it's not like this long-term commitment or an expensive yarn investment to learn something new. Hats are a great way to learn a new skill, for sure.
My daughter has commandeered most of the hats in the house. Yeah, so.
Awesome. Well, I have 2020 goals for me besides a cardigan for myself. I want to learn double knitting.
Oh.
Yeah. I've never even tried it. So I think I'll start with like something super easy, like, a hot pad. Just knit some wool hot pads that are just to be able to see how it's going to go. And I understand the concept of double knitting. You have your one side and your other side. And so, right? Do you get what I mean when I do that? So if you knit side, the right side and the wrong side, and you put them together and then the stitches are on your needle like this, you would knit the right side would be, so this one, this one, this one, and this one would be knit stitches, and then the others, this one, this one, this one, and this one would be purls, right? I get the concept, but color work and double knitting together, yeah, you kind of have to pay attention, I think.
I was going to say, you have to focus. One of the knitting friends from my little coffee group, she did a Doctor Who cowl in double knitting.
Oh.
So it's one picture on one side and you flip it inside out, another picture.
Did you see that cowl that I put in the patron group a few days ago? I put a pattern in there, and I'll link it down below if people are interested. I'll put it in the video description. But I saw that, and I'm like, oh, that's amazing.
I wonder if I saw it there or on your Ravelry page.
That I favorited it?
I don't know if you favorited it. I feel like I've seen it.
Yeah, I posted it in the patron group, and I said, this might have to be our first double knitting project.
Oh, man.
And I don't know if it's just me, if there's enough public. Leave a comment down below if you want to learn double knitting, and then we'll do it. I mean, because I don't know if there's enough, public interest to do a double knitting knit along. Double knitting knit along. Double knitting knit along. Yeah.
Knit along.
Yeah.
DKKL.
We might want to consider that. And a cowl is a nice first. It's not like you're doing an entire, 10-foot scarf. It's a cowl. Yeah.
Well, my love of washcloths. Right. So I found there was a 2020 washcloth and it was so cute. I'm like, oh, look at this 2020 washcloth. And I had posted that in the patron group and one of our patrons had said, oh yeah, well, how do you do the double knitting part? And I went, it's double knitting. Didn't mean to post that. Sorry, Kathleen.
Okay, maybe not. But I think you could probably figure it out without that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think she writes it both ways. Oh, that's my other thing. I would like to learn how to read a chart. I don't read a chart yet.
Well, we can do that. We can do that. I
just get the patterns that write out the chart.
Well, here's the thing. I think for me, this was my experience. My experience was that I preferred the written instruction when I was kind of a newer knitter. I preferred a written instruction. However, I feel like I kind of leveled up when I became comfortable and could just glance at a chart. And the reason I think it's easier is because you're not having to keep your place on the line or keep your place in a knitting sentence, if you will. You know what I mean? You're not trying to keep your place between the commas. It's more of a visual thing where you know what line you're on. Like, I don't have one sitting here handy. You'd think I would. What line you're on with your tape or your knit companion or your highlighter tape or your ruler or magnetic board or whatever it is, you can just glance over and see, well, I have 4 squares, so that's 4 knit stitches. You're not trying to find your place on a printed sentence between commas. It's easier, I think, to keep your place and to just move right along, or chart repeats between the red lines, I know several people that are very advanced knitters. They will not even bother with a pattern if it doesn't have a chart. So they're like, don't even waste my time. But, there are lots of people that, having said that, that is my preference. And there are lots of people that are very experienced knitters that still prefer written instructions. And so that's fine. I mean, you're the boss, right? But if I have a choice, if there's a pattern that has written instructions, but I really, really want to knit it, I would be tempted to chart it for myself. And either with graph paper or on a spreadsheet, or there's free software where you can just put in stuff and it does it. Like Stitch Fiddle, for example. Anyway, I prefer a chart. And once you understand how a chart works, I have a video for that, by the way, and I'll link it down below. Yes,
the hat was on a chart. It was last year around Valentine's Day.
Oh, what? Oh, the Norwegian star hat that we did? Okay. Did you knit that one?
I did not.
Okay. I didn't think you had.
No.
But, yeah.
But that was one where you were teaching everybody to read charts. I did cross stitch a lot. I used to do cross stitch a lot, and I think you just have to read in a different direction.
You do. And the thing is knitting in the round, reading a chart when you're knitting in the round is different than knitting a flat piece back and forth, like the blocks of the month that we're doing. But it's all very logical because the chart follows the direction in which you are knitting. So when you're knitting, you're knitting from right to left. You're moving across your needle. You're working the stitches across your needle from right to left. Correct?
Yeah, that does make sense.
So you read the chart from right to left. That's the same direction you're knitting. Yeah. And then when you're working a flat piece and then you turn it over, well, then you read the next line. You go right to left. Well, and I'm going to do it reverse because of the video. But you go right to left, and then you go up one row when you turn your work, and then you go back the other way. Just like when you're knitting, if you flip your work, you read the chart the other direction.
Yes.
But if you're knitting in the round, then you always go right to left, right to left, right to left, because that's you're knitting in the round. You don't change directions like you do with a flat piece. It makes sense logically.
Logically.
But anyway, I have a video on how to read a chart. I mean, a whole separate video.
Yes. Yes.
Not the hat one, but a whole separate video just for how to read a chart. So I will put a link to the video that I have about chart reading down below in the description. And speaking of charts, though, let me just divert for a second. I just got this book in the mail.
You did. Oh my gosh.
I know. So and then it says a page number. So if you were looking at this one in particular, this one right here, it says that one's on page 100 whatever. And then you go to that page and there's charts.
Oh,
so you really got to learn to read charts so that you can enjoy all the things, right?
Choose your own adventure hat.
Yes.
Or socks. You could get all.
Yeah, and we talked about that in the patron group. We talked about the patrons get to vote on knit-alongs, the topics. We've talked some about what we want to do for 2020. And one of the things we want to do coming up is the choose your own adventure sock. And the reason I call it that is because you have your regular formula, right? Either toe up or cuff down, your choice. But how to choose a motif like colorwork or cables or lace or whatever it is, a broken rib pattern or whatever you want to do, how to choose that and then make that chart or that stitch repeat work for the cast on number that you need for your sock. Okay, so there's several books regarding that, and I brought some of them actually they might still be in the tub that I had at the class at the retreat. But there's a couple of books by Charlene Church that are about something sensational socks. I'll put the link down below. But she has broken it up into 6 stitch repeat charts or 8 stitch repeats. So if you have a multiple, if you cast on 72 and that's a multiple of 8, and you can go and look and see what stitch patterns will work for your sock. So that's what we'll talk about in the group is how to do that, how to make all that work out.
Nice.
And then there's all the different heels we could knit. Different ones, lots of different ones. I mean, I have my favorite. It's no secret I love the heel flap and gusset, but that isn't, maybe other people want to learn different ones.
I'm going to learn an afterthought heel this year too.
Okay. Afterthought heel.
An afterthought heel.
Are you going to be okay with the cutting?
We'll see. Let me get through my sweater first.
So in the order of things you would like to learn, it would be we should start a sweater because that's going to be a long-term thing.
Well, so I'm working on the second Avenue shawl right now. And the longer this puppy gets, the more I realized I could have knit a fingering weight sweater.
Yes.
I'm only 50%.
Oh, that's lovely.
This thing, look how huge it is.
That's amazing.
And I'm only 50% through. So I'm figuring, the type of shawls that I find myself attracted to, really, I could have knit a sweater.
Yes.
Yes. So I have yarn purchased and dedicated to the second Avenue, and I have my yarn purchased and dedicated for my Find Your Fade.
Yes.
So those two, that's really nice yarn. I need to knit those. And those are both big ambitious projects. So then I have the sweater too. So
I think it's all about learning new things. You got to keep challenging yourself. And you totally have been. A year ago, you would not have undertaken that shawl. You would not.
I can't believe I did the cozy winter. The encouragement of the group completely. So
well, you've totally leveled up. It's like a video game. It's like you've achieved.
Wouldn't it be great if every time you did something like that, some noise went and you got like virtual knitting points? So because like, you know, I for this one, when my holes were off and I had to drop down and
you had yarn overs where you shouldn't have had yarn overs. Yeah.
And it should have went like getting or finding oh yeah. When you get to the end of the row and it says knit 6 and you only have 4.
Right. Wah, wah, wah. There should be a frogging sound too.
You lose the knitting life.
You've done amazing. I mean, you're right. You could knit a fingering weight sweater. That's fantastic. I mean, just to kind of wrap up, it's been 2019 was a year of skill building, really. Yeah, I think for all of us, because we worked at it. I think that's great. So join up in the patron group if you guys want to become a patron and you want to have a say in what we do. Yeah, we'll put the link for that down below. Join me over on Patreon to see what I'm offering in trade for your pledges. It's like public radio, public TV. You know, you pledge a certain amount, you get a few things. Right. So in the meantime, what's on your needles besides the shawl? What's on your needles right now that you're working on and you're going to finish? I mean, the shawl's kind of a longer term thing. You could get that done in a week if that's all you did was knit. Mm-hmm. But what else do you have going currently?
Really, I did a bunch of washcloths because you know me and washcloths. I had once you've had a knitted dishcloth and once you give them to people, then they wear out and then you have a responsibility to continue knitting them. Yes, you
don't. You could teach them to knit their own. You are not obligated to knit things for other people all the time.
So these are for my 96-year-old grandmother.
Okay, maybe she wants them. Okay.
So those are for her. These are for me because my old ones are wearing out.
Well, okay, then yay. You're knitting them for yourself. That's different.
Yes. Right. And I'm going to learn how to do, it's called the Almost Lost washcloth pattern. Okay. It looks like a spiral-ish around the edges.
Okay.
Like this twirl thing. So saying it out loud will make it happen. I'll have to show it next time. For some reason, I've used them as hot pads in my kitchen for a long, long time, and they're wearing out. So I would like to make a couple of those. Hat for the boy that fits him. And I think I'm getting brave enough to fix my socks.
Yes, you will. You will. They've been in timeout for a little while. They can come out of timeout.
They have.
And you got your book for Christmas.
I got my book for Christmas, and I tell you, this is fantastic. This was wonderful. I love videos, and I love to learn from videos. It's also nice to have a diagram in front of you so that when I've watched the video and I understand the concept of it, then when I have to sit down and do the step-by-step, it's nice for the slow down piece.
Yeah, it doesn't move. You can just open the page and it sits there and you don't have to pause. Right. Now, you have the new version. I'll put the link to the Vogue knitting book down below, but I have the older version. You have the newer one. I have the much older version with the Post-it notes all in there.
Yes, but I can tell you, like, it's page 177 that teaches you how to drop down.
Yes. The illustrations are done very well in these. This is the bind off page, you know. Yeah. So
my correcting errors page and
yes. And I think that's great because like you said, the videos are helpful, but it is good to have a diagram right in front of you as well. And I'm all about the reference books.
Yes.
It's great to have reference and stitched dictionaries. I love them too. We've talked about that before. I love them too. So if you were talking about the Choose Your Own Adventure sock, for example, if you had this page, for example, that just shows like, I can't see around myself, but like here's a cable pattern and then there's the chart. Now it does have it written out, but using the chart I think is a lot easier. But you could just go through and look at this and go, oh, I really like that cable pattern. I'd really like to have that on the outside of a sock, right? And you would know that that cable pattern needs 15 stitches because the chart tells me that. So then we can incorporate that in.
It's a lot of math.
You would want to swatch. And the reason you'd want to swatch,
that's the other thing that's on my needles that I was telling you that I had a project to show you about, but you would be righteously indignant. And of everything I set up completely, but I left it in the other room. Subconsciously, maybe on purpose.
And so what is the project that you don't want to show?
So, it's a hat that I thought I really didn't need to swatch for because I had done the hat before, but in a different type of yarn.
It all matters. Yep. Yep. Different yarn, different needles. I've noticed a difference in material of needles. For example, aluminum versus stainless steel will change my gauge. Bamboo versus stainless steel will change my gauge. Double points versus circular, like magic looping versus double points, will change my gauge. For sure. Yeah, it all matters. Any of those little variables makes a difference.
So I remember I was getting ready to cast on. I'm like, the yarn seems a little bit thinner than that other brand. Maybe I should swatch. Oh, that'll take so much time. I'll just figure it out, and I'm about this far into the ribbing and going, it really kind of looks small. Kind of doesn't look like it's really going to fit. Yeah.
So it's on the needles and you're all, whoopsie.
Yeah, not going to fit.
Well, you're only whatever that far in, just tear it out and start over.
I'm that far in. So I'm wondering, so I have socks going and they're with yarn that I bought on my vacation, but after my debacle with the first pair of socks, I have the second pair of socks and it's ready for the heel, but I know now that it's not going to be knit densely enough, so it's not going to last. So really, I just need to rip all that out and start again.
Yeah. And make it like it never happened.
Yes. So I was stuck on this, which was vacation yarn, and I was stuck on the sock, which was vacation yarn, and the hat was yarn that I let my daughter pick out from vacation. So there's a theme there.
So the other thing I was going to tell about real quick was, before I let you go, was our current knit along is lots of fun. So if it's not too late, if viewers want to jump in on our current knit along, they can do that. We've had our cast on prizes have been awarded. The cast on was January 1st. So we did our cast on thread in the Ravelry group and then did a random number draw for the cast on prizes for downloads. But our current knit along is the Harriet's hat, or any of the Harriet's collection patterns. And so this is one. I've knitted 2 hats so far. They're both the same because my husband took the first one, commandeered that. It happens in my house too. But I have to say, we've been married a long time, and so he's seen a lot of knitting come and go, and he doesn't really pay that much attention until now. He just wanted that hat. He just really wanted it. I'm like, seriously? He's like, yeah, totally. Can I have that? And he was all excited about it. So I'm like, sure. And then I knitted another one because the first one was supposed to be for my daughter. So here's the second one. And I have decided I love Fair Isle, really.
You have to show the top because the top is
the crown decreases are lovely.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
I love to look at the pictures in the group of the different color choices that people have had, and watch their hats taking shape. It's so cool.
Yeah, so obviously that's an alternative. The traditional colors look like this, right, on the pattern. And so this is the alternative colorway. And then the Harriet's collection, there's the hat, there's the cowl, the headband, mittens, fingerless gloves, regular gloves. Anyway, and there is also a headband. So I've also started the headband in the autumn or the warm color combination that I had. And I don't know, I'm not sure if I'm digging it or not. It's kind of 70s, And if you haven't lived through the 70s, then maybe you'd be like, okay. But I mean, I just have it a flashback of like, the avocado green refrigerator and the shag carpet. I don't know. I'm going to reserve my judgment till I'm at least through the main part of the chart, but it looks like a mess because kind of it is, but that's all right. They're just ends I need to weave in, and then this lighter colored edge is just the provisional cast on. It's just the waste yarn from that. So I don't know. Watching the group, we'll see how it turns out. But it's not too late to join the knit along. You'd want to order your pattern from mrimakers.com. Link down below. You'd want to order your pattern because all the proceeds from the pattern goes towards the Shetland MRI Appeal. We've talked about that lots and lots, but links down below if you're interested. But it's not too late to join the knit along. We're going to be doing this all month. There are videos about Fair Isle knitting that Anne and I have done, Anne Frost from the I Thought I Knew How podcast. So she and I have been doing tutorial videos. There are still some more tutorial videos to come just because of time and, like real life obligations. I haven't done all the ones yet that I was supposed to do about 2-color knitting and yarn management so you don't get things twisted or tangled, right? Keeping stuff straight. And then the corrugated ribbing. There's a couple other videos that are going to be coming out in the next week or so. So watch for that. It's not too late to join the knit along. All of the chatter about that is going on in the Purl Together Ravelry group. So, and there are progress prizes, and then there's like a mega prize drawing at the end. So there you go, for finished object people. So that's lots of fun. Yeah, then I want to get after the sock thing and the learning double knitting, and I have never done a fade shawl. I've never done a find my fade. I've never found my fade. So I kind of want to do that. I know that was like a big, it was a big popular project on Ravelry like 2 years ago, but I'm behind in a lot of ways, so that's okay.
You're the boss.
I am. Well, of my knitting at least. Probably nothing else in my life, but oh, thanks for joining me, Jill.
Thank you. It was lovely.
It was a good year. It was a good knitting year, definitely.
It was.
All right, see you guys. Bye.